What is the best way to grow in life? Slow or fast? Fast is the best way. No doubt about that. The only problem is this. Most of times, to grow fast, you need to take a lot of risk. And when you take those risks, in many occasions you may fail. And if you fail, you are going to go back to zero and you have to start again. So that's the problem. Let's talk about that. I want to tell you guys my experience in this thing here. When I was young, like 20, 21 years old, something around that, I was working for myself and I took some risks. I tried very hard for 2 years and I failed miserably and was very bad for me. I tried to work with this small factory here in Brazil of pulleys and wheels. You know, wheels for to use in the gates of the houses here. It's something that is very sellable. You sell in different stores, and it's a good product because here in Brazil, the average house has a gate because around here is the way that we build our houses. You know, here things are not as safe as in US. So you need to have walls outside of the house and also gates. And my parents, they own this small factory of these wheels to use um, in the gates. And as they were retiring, they left for me and my brother the small factory. You know, around 5 or 6 employees. Was a good operation for them. But the situation was they had experience, lots of years. And another thing, they had a real estate portfolio to back them up. So because of that, they, especially my father, he was able to deal with the crisis, with problems that happen. So for many years, he took care of this small factory alongside with my mother, and everything was okay. All right. Then they left it for me. They retired. Everything was well, and I tried to manage things. At that moment, I had a lot of experience with the operation to to put the wheels together, to do everything. I was okay, but to sell them with the right price and to manage the entire operation of the company, I wasn't ready. But I tried anyway, and I failed after 2 years. You know, I what I did wrong was to establish the price of each wheel or pulley. Maybe I don't know by which name you guys can understand this better, wheel or pulley. But that doesn't matter. The fact is that to establish the price was my problem. I didn't take in consideration all the costs. I only consider the cost to produce, not the entire cost of the factory to for the factory to keep working. So I failed, and with that, after that, I was afraid to take risks again. And for the rest of my professional life until today, I've been avoiding risks every time. For example, now I've been working with construction for 20 years. I am 47 years old now. And I only build if I have the money. If I don't have the money to build, I just don't. I do not take loans. I do not finance anything. But you know something? I know that this is the way that I did. And for me, it seems that it's the right way. But if you think right, this is the safer way. Not just for me, but in reality, is the safer way. But maybe it is good to take risks when you are young. And maybe other people are going to take risks and they are going to succeed. Just because things didn't went right for me, that does not mean that it's wrong for everybody. Especially in other countries where the interest rates are lower than here in Brazil. In Brazil, they are very high, always. But the thing is, maybe we need to think about that. Maybe you need to be honest with yourself. Not maybe, but you need to be honest with yourself about this. If you deal okay with taking risks or not. And also, you have to deal with the consequences. For example, if you finance, because the bad part of financing and taking risks, because when we speak about taking risks in business, basically we are talking about two different things. First type of risk is financing, taking loans. This is the first type. But there is a second type, which is risking what you already own, what you already built. But we need to take in consideration that maybe, for example, in my case, the risks that I took when I was young, in a certain way, they were good for me because I learned valuable lessons with them, and including not taking risks again. And that's what I did. And since then, things are going very well for me. You know, you have to deal with a lot of situations. Things are going to take longer than if you finance them or take loans. For example, in the construction business, every construction um, took longer time than it would if I had took or take loans during the construction. But you know something? For me, in many moments, this was a good thing too. Because as the construction, I'm going to be dealing with the construction for a longer period of time. In many occasions, I was able to really understand what I was doing. I was able to learn better about how to run a construction site, how to do things with less money. I was more involved, you know. Think about this. I always have little money to build. And because of that, I had to manage to do things with the money that I had at the time. And because of that, I, al- I was always able to build with less money than you would have to use in general. A proof of that is that when I am talking to people who work with construction, my people who work in this same industry that I work, they are always amazed with the amount of money that I spend in the constructions because I am always able to build with less. And that is due to the fact that I have little money. So I have to search for solutions. So you see, the way that I was working the entire time was always for me the fastest way that was possible. But the thing is, after that first business where I failed, I stopped trying to take shortcuts. So maybe the answer is this. Maybe the answer is you need to do things as fast as you can without taking shortcuts. Because when I started to work only with the money that I have, what happened? I was safe in every occasion. The lot that I was building on was mine. So, no problem with that. All the materials that I was using in the construction site were already paid. So, no problem with that either. You know, in many occasions, when I run out of money, what I did was I stopped the construction for maybe 6 months, or I dropped the amount of people that was there with me. In many situations, I was in the construction site only with 2 or 3 people. In certain cases, only one person helping me, and I was working there alongside with this one guy that I had at the time. So in reality, I was trying to build as fast as I can, but without taking risks unnecessarily or unnecessary risks. But I don't want to say this here as an universal rule, but I'd like to point very clearly that this is the safer way. We can't argue with that. It is the safer. But maybe you are a person who enjoys taking risks. But you know, one of the problems that taking risks carries is this. Maybe if you are going to be taking risks in every project that you are getting into, If you succeed, you may think that you are the guy, that you are the one, that you know everything. And then, maybe because of that, you are going to risk more and more in every situation. Because you will think that you know better, because you are the guy. So, thinking about that, I really came to the conclusion and realized that even though you took risk and succeed, you need to keep yourself humble to think about things. But the thing is this, maybe to stay humble, fail is needed. I don't know. People, only each one of us thinks in a different way. I know that there are people who never fail and are humble. They exist, but they are rare. They are rare. Most of us, to become humble, we need to be miserable. We need to face something hard, something that is difficult to deal with. We need to fail. Would be better if things are different. But this is just the way that things are. But I know people that are humble, that work for themselves their entire lives, and they are humble, and this is the way they are. Simple as that. And it's good to know that such people exist. It gives me hope in people, you know? But the thing is, I am not one of these. I have to face failure to understand that I wasn't the guy, and that I need to keep things safe for me in order to succeed. Because you know something, if you are always going back to zero and starting again, you are going to get tired. And maybe if you get tired in an age that you can't push yourself to start again, I don't know if this would be a good idea. I really believe that you need to be safe and you need to do the things of your work and professionally as safer or as safe as you can. That's the way that I did. But I'm not telling you that this is the only way. This is just the safer way. And this is the way that worked for me. All right, my friends, this is all that I have for you today. Thank you all for watching, and I see you in the next video.